Chapter 11:26. Boundless Sea. The news was released on Team Wind Howl's official Weibo, so the pro players who were currently active on Weibo were the first to know. Feng Rui was really going to transfer? Everyone was stunned. They were just joking around earlier. Who would have thought that the news was actually true? Transfers were a different kind of departure. Even though it wasn't a permanent farewell like retirement was, but to be teammates one day and opponents the next wasn't a pleasant feeling. Professional spirit, professionalism. It sounded simple, but everyone was human, and what kind of human didn't have emotions? The so-called professionalism was, at its core, simply the ability to control one's emotions. Perhaps some people might enjoy leaving their original team and leap towards the future. But Feng Rui, everyone believed, was not that kind of person. Everyone saw and understood the problems between Feng Rui and Wind Howl. He only left out of helplessness. He personally felt wronged, and the team also felt that it was a pity too. So as soon as the news was revealed to be true, people couldn't joke any longer. After seeing that this news was confirmed, Chen Guo suddenly became nervous. "Can we get him to our team?" Chen Guo asked. Yi Shu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "You can't just toss a good vegetable into our basket as soon as you see it. You have to see if it fits in or not. After all, we're not a recycling station." Recycling station? A recycling station is for trash, okay? This is an all-star we're talking about here. Chen Guo resisted the urge to complain aloud. "We don't need his dirty playing," but as soon as the words left her mouth, Chen Guo stopped. She looked at Yi Shu. And then she looked over at Wei Chen, who was casually dangling a slipper from one foot as he sat in front of his computer, smoking a cigarette. Happy might lack many things, but dirty play certainly wasn't one of them. What was the point in getting Feng Rui over here? Compete to see who could be the most shameless? Make a team that had shamelessness as its core playstyle, once and for all? Just thinking about organizing a team like that, Chen Guo couldn't help but shiver. Let's just pass on him, she thought. But after Yi Shu finished, he immediately went back to join in on the fun. Because the news was confirmed, the Weibo war that had entertained countless fans had suddenly quieted down. But in this calm, Yi Shu, the man with 10 million followers, 0 following, and 1 post, suddenly made his second post. "So you're really transferring? Happy is absolutely your best choice. Team of champions, master of kings. Fuck. You just couldn't resist?" A team that just emerged from the Challenger League was a team of champions, master of kings? Then what did that make everyone else? Tiny Herb, winner of 2 championships, Wang Jiexi wrote in an entirely neutral tone. Now that excellent era was no longer in the alliance, 2-time champion was an extremely impressive accomplishment. Samsara, winner of 2 championships in a row, Zhang Batao's follow-up was immediate. Repeating Wang Jiexi's words but adding, in a row, immediately made this accomplishment seem that much greater. Tiny Herb wasn't able to defend their title because they lost to the number 1 team in the universe, Blue Rain. As expected of the master opportunist Huang Shaoshan, he seized the chance to interject with his extraordinary hand speed. Blue Rain's sole championship, originally seemingly weaker than the others, was suddenly lifted in importance. Tyranny has your oldest and most familiar partner. Zhang Jiali also joined in on the fun, playing the emotion card because of Lin Jingyan's presence in the team. Yup, really quite old. Then someone below immediately came out of nowhere and made this reply. Zhang Jiali was so mad he wanted to spit blood, but it was just an ordinary player. How could he get into an argument with someone like that? In an instant, Weibo was suddenly lively again. But it was still unclear as to which, if any, of these teams were serious in their comments. Because of Feng Rui's skill and status, if he transferred to another team, there was no way he would just be a substitute. He himself wouldn't be willing, and it would be a waste for the team. His arrival would require his new team to undergo a huge readjustment, and this wasn't something that could be clarified in just a few words. When a team invited a new player, they would first perform thorough analysis and observation of the player. As Yi Shu said, it wasn't a matter of tossing all the good vegetables into the basket, you had to see if you could use this vegetable to create a suitable taste. After Feng Rui's confirmed transfer, there were immediately people pulling him this way and that, but it was impossible to gauge their sincerity. Those that were actually interested in Feng Rui were likely gathered in intense discussion among the entire team. This was no small matter. After people chattered on Weibo for a while longer, it finally quieted down once and for all. To make a deal right here right now was obviously impossible. Fang Rui was going to transfer, but where he would end up wasn't something that could be decided in a short amount of time. However, as Chen Guo watched Yi Shu rile up the other pros, she suddenly started wondering again. Other teams had managers and bosses and many departments, all of which would need to be consulted for a matter like this. But Happy wasn't so complex and didn't have so many workers. She, the boss, was the tossing good vegetables into basket type of person as Yi Shu put it, and the others like Tang Ru and Steamed Bun were just rookies and didn't have much to contribute on this end. So for issues like this, Yi Shu was essentially the sole decision maker, with Wei Chen occasionally giving his opinions from the side. The other pro players were just playing around, their words didn't have any weight. But Yi Shu wasn't the same, because in practice, he held the same power in Happy as Lu Guaning did in Heavenly Swords. They were each a pro player, but also the decision-making boss. This Fang Rui, do we want him or not? Chen Guo asked. We don't, Yi Shu said, smiling as he shook his head. Wouldn't he raise the ability of our team? Chen Guo asked. All this time, she was trying to learn more. Although her ability at playing Glory probably wouldn't improve, she wanted to increase her knowledge and analytic ability to be a competent leader of Team Happy. He would, Yi Shu said. For a player with his skill, as long as you give him enough freedom, he would raise the ability of any team. But for us, his relative value is too low. An all-star player, and we'd have to get him an all-star account. How much investment would that take? And there's the price of his contract, too. If we did this, we'd be putting all of our eggs in one basket. There's no need for us to be stuck on this one tree for so long. After hearing this, Chen Guo understood. In the end, it came down to the fact that Happy didn't have enough funds. The 5 million award from winning the Challenger League was already split among all the players, and as for the other funds from broadcasting and sponsorship deals and such, Happy currently had around 12 million in usable funds. Wei Chen also had 18 million himself, and he had said that this was his investment in the team and available to use. But neither Chen Guo nor Yi Shu wanted to use Wei Chen's personal money. 12 million. Since Fang Rui was already confirmed to be leaving Wind Howl, then even though he was an all-star, the price wouldn't be too high. But if Fang Rui were to come, he would have to have a suitable account. If they also wanted to get the all-star character Doubtful Demon, then 12 million might be barely enough, if that. And there was no way that Fang Rui would be like Yi Shu and the others, who played without caring about income. He would definitely want a competitive contract. Fang Rui currently had an annual salary of 6.5 million with Wind Howl, since he was still in his prime. He wasn't being transferred because of declining skill, so there was no reason for him to shrink his contract. With all of that, even if Happy were to tap into Wei Chen's 18 million, getting Fang Rui over would really put Happy into a predicament. Happy also had daily expenses, and all of its existing members still had to sign competitive contracts. Wu Chen needed a salary for managing the guild too. And there was still the issue of a lack of a stadium, which Happy had yet to resolve. Then what are you still causing this ruckus here for? After thinking over all of that, Chen Guo knew they wouldn't be able to get Fang Rui. But she also didn't believe that Yi Shu was just doing this all for fun. This guy always did things with a purpose. Haha. Let everyone have some fun together, Yi Shu said. And then, Chen Guo wasn't discouraged. Yi Shu definitely had an ulterior motive. Indeed, on Yi Shu's screen was a page displaying news of Zhao Yang's retirement. We can think about getting the character Boundless Sea. Boundless Sea, Chi Master? Do we need it? Chen Guo was surprised. It's at least more reliable than trying to get Fang Rui, said Yi Shu. Would Seaside let the account go just like that? Chen Guo asked. Boundless Sea had special significance to Seaside. It was like one autumn leaf in Excellent Era, or Vacaria and Tiny Herb. The value of such a character wasn't just in the power of the character or its equipment, this was a team's soul and core. One would have to buy the other party's feelings and memories with this account as well, and the price for that would only ever be high, never low. I think there should be a chance, Yi Shu said. Why? If Seaside still had strong aspirations, I think that they wouldn't have had Zhao Yang retire just like this, said Yi Shu. After all, Wang Jiaxi and Yang Kong, who had debuted the same year as Zhao Yang, were both still fighting. But a team without aspiration would let their core player retire. A team without aspiration, similarly, wouldn't needlessly cling to their core character. Yi Shu understood this. While others were still discussing as to which Chi Master player Seaside would recruit to replace Zhao Yang, he was pondering as to how to obtain Seaside's core character for Happy. What if other teams think the same thing and try to compete for it? Chen Guo asked. Transferring accounts wasn't as complex a process as transferring players, since there were no personal preferences involved. Accounts weren't alive, the clubs could sell them wherever they wanted. So if there was competition, the price would just go up. This was therefore a difficult issue for Happy. Haha, think about it, Yi Shu laughed. Among the current powerhouse teams, which ones have Chi Masters on their main roster? Chen Guo blinked. With this question, the first team that popped into her mind was actually Excellent Era. Player Guo Yang, character Chi Breaker, a first-string member of Excellent Era. Chen Guo had been a fan of Excellent Era, so she was of course familiar with him. But then, Wind Howl and Blue Rain. Yi Shu answered for Chen Guo. Last season, of the 8 playoff teams, only these 2 teams had Chi Masters in their rosters. Wind Howl's Chi Master was from Excellent Era, this wasn't a class they originally had. He didn't integrate well over the past season, he often couldn't contribute much, so it's more likely that Wind Howl would give up on their Chi Master. As for Blue Rain, their Chi Master Receding Tides is fairly strong, so they might want to buy some equipment that they don't already have off Boundless Sea. But they probably wouldn't directly incorporate Boundless Sea into their team, that sort of base level change isn't their style. So that's to say, we don't have any big competitors when it comes to Boundless Sea, Chen Guo said. Chapter 1127. Guan Rongfei's Experiment. The news about the 2 All-Stars meant that this day was fated to be no ordinary day. However, for many, business had to continue as usual. Today was the 7th and last day of the Ghost Parade. Since luck was crucial in the Ghost Parade, everyone's ranking fluctuated. However, due to the immense difference in the skill level between pro players and normal players, the effects of luck between the two were eliminated. The daily and overall rankings were dominated by pro players. The last day. On the overall rankings, Deception still held the first place. Those who managed to rank at the top of the overall rankings had great luck over all 6 days of the event. Out of over 100 pro players, the only 2 who had continuous good luck was Mo Fan at first place and Zhang Jiali at second. As for the pro accounts after them, they had 2 or 3 days of bad luck, resulting in a large gap between their scores. It seemed that the first place overall would be one of these 2. However, the current situation had Zhang Jiali almost crying. Second again. He was second even in an online event. What kind of fate was this? Zhang Jiali was close to vomiting. Why did this world taunt him like this? Zhang Jiali clenched his fist, sat in front of his computer and waiting for the last day of the event to start. But, something like luck couldn't be changed just by being diligent. At exactly 7 p.m., the event began. On the last day, the number of ghosts had reached an unprecedented peak, and the players were immediately thrown into anxious hurrying. Zhang Jiali wanted to get first place, so tyrannical ambition would naturally provide him with support. For example, from the very beginning, they had arranged for helpers around Dazzling 100 Blossoms who would help him find ghosts. With help, Zhang Jiali had gotten off to a good start. However, after that wave, the effects of his helpers had weakened, because they also relied on luck to find ghosts. Having more people didn't mean having better luck. Though spreading out would increase their chances, as they spread out further and further, it became impossible for Dazzling 100 Blossoms to run between them. In the end, he still had to rely on himself. Zhang Jiali had Dazzling 100 Blossoms dart about before slowly coming to a realization that he had been overtaken with bad luck. His search for ghosts was extremely unsuccessful. Zhang Jiali could only hope that Deception was having an equally difficult time, but when he took a look at the ranking, Deception was still above him and had gained an even larger lead. Apart from raising a monster, there was no other way to turn the tides. Tyranny had a monster feeding team, carefully and quietly preparing to raise one. They didn't need it to be anything amazing, just enough to send Dazzling 100 Blossoms to first place. However, the guilds all knew to be aware of this sort of thing, so it was very hard to hide one. In the end, Zhang Jiali received a message saying that their monster had been found and they had been forced to kill it. It was better than feeding it to their opponents. There was nothing more he could do. Looking at the rankings, Zhang Jiali sighed. His luck was really quite abysmal today. In the daily rankings, he hadn't even managed to squeeze into the top 5. On the other hand, Deception was sitting comfortably at 3rd place, fortune still in his favor. There was really no helping with something like luck. The number of ghosts was continuously decreasing. After the Easter egg had been triggered yesterday, the guilds all hoped they would get another chance. Thus, the competition for ghosts was even more intense. What mattered first and foremost wasn't if they could find all the ghosts, but maintaining a spot in the top 5, or else they wouldn't even have a chance. At 10 that night, the number of ghosts fell to a 2-digit number, and by then, the top 5 positions were stable already. Deception was still 3rd, and everyone could tell that this was a guy whose luck had persisted for all 7 days, much to their envy. Apart from him, the 1st, 2nd, 4th and 5th were Blossoming Chaos, Angelica, Firebird Messenger, and Combat Form respectively. Blossoming Chaos was Yu Feng and Angelica was Xu Bin, 2 all-star level players. Firebird Messenger was Thunderclaps Dai Yanqi, the runner-up for Best Rookie of the 8th season, and an elementalist like the one who had ended up with the award, Zhao Yuji. As for Combat Form, this character had appeared in the top 5 for the first time, but had been noticed long ago by everyone. After all, the skill difference between normal players and pro players was very apparent. This person was definitely pro-level. Not many were familiar with this character, but everyone knew that this was a young man from the old Excellent Era called Chu Fei. Excellent Era had already fallen, so why was he still here? No one would hold in this curiosity for a full 7 days. They had gone to check when they first started wondering. It was then that they had found out that Excellent Era was still there. Excellent Era had survived, but it no longer held any of its previous splendor. The new owner clearly didn't have all that many funds, and the Excellent Era he had bought was basically just a skeleton. However, there were 2 very clear points to this. Of the original players of Excellent Era, he had managed to keep the young man called Chu Fei as well as his Battle Mage Combat Form. In addition, he had managed to retain Excellent Dynasty. This Excellent Era was clearly not a powerhouse anymore, but they didn't seem to be nearly as weak as a grassroots team. Just what Excellent Dynasty could accomplish alone was impressive. The players remaining in Excellent Era were extremely united and loyal, especially after the dire situation they had gone through. They would work hard to bring Excellent Era back off the ground. Maybe it wouldn't be long before they would face Excellent Era on the battlefield again. That was what many people thought, but no one voiced it. The number of ghosts continued to decrease at a slower and slower rate. In the past, pro players would have logged off by now. What little was remaining wouldn't be able to do much to their score. However, now that they knew of the existence of the Easter egg, the top 5 pro players would stay for longer, until the event ended. By 11:23, the number of ghosts paused at 3. There was 3 left, 37 minutes left. The top 5 had already started forming parties, yet as time ticked by, the number 3 never changed. Even until the end, when midnight struck and the event ended, the Easter egg quest had never been triggered. On the final overall rankings, Deception stood at 1st place, dazzling 100 Blossoms at 2nd. However, the halo of 2nd place clearly overpowered 1st place. This was because dazzling 100 Blossoms was Zhang Jiali, the guy who had gotten who knew how many 2nd places. Although everyone knew that Zhang Jiali would be upset at this result, many people still came to lament over it. However, Zhang Jiali had already logged off by then. Everyone had claimed their daily ranking prizes daily. The overall ranking prizes on the last day were, naturally, the best. The number 1 Deception had obtained 3 pieces of level 75 orange equipment, 15 rare materials, 30 Fuji Heaven stones that could be used to repair the durability of level 75 weapons, a 50-point skill book, and a significant amount of gold. The other characters also gained rewards proportional to their final rankings. However, currently, at Team Happy, Yi Shu didn't have the time to spare for these rewards, because after sleeping a whole day, Guan Rongfei had finally come back. Yi Shu hadn't forgotten that this guy had said he needed to conduct an extremely important experiment. Have you gathered all the materials? As expected, that was the first thing Guan Rongfei asked. Everything's been prepared. Yi Shu followed him to the R&D room. Guan Rongfei didn't stop him. The others were curious but had the clarity of mind to not follow them inside, whispering to each other outside. What sort of experiment is it? Seeing Guan Rongfei sit and turn on the laptop, Yi Shu couldn't help but ask this. I'm trying to create a bonus effect, Guan Rongfei said. What effect? Yi Shu was stunned. The effects on a piece of equipment would naturally determine what use the equipment had. In creating silver weaponry, usually, the players themselves would ask for the effect they wanted and then the R&D team would go about trying to create it. Of course, rookies probably wouldn't have this sort of treatment and could only do their best to adapt to the current equipment and accounts in the club. However, Yi Shu, no matter what, had the right to dictate what sort of equipment he had. Thus, the current situation was rather strange. Guan Rongfei was dead set on creating an effect, but Yi Shu didn't know what it was. None of the effects he had suggested before required so much. 25 pieces of rare materials. Lowering the level requirement, Guan Rongfei didn't bother to act mysterious and gave Yi Shu the information he wanted. Lower the level requirement. Yi Shu naturally understood what this effect was, but why would we want? I'm going to upgrade the Myriad Manifestations umbrella directly to level 80. Before Yi Shu finished his question, Guan Rongfei gave him his answer. Upgrade to level 80. Yi Shu was dumbstruck. Apart from someone like Guan Rongfei, very rarely did people manage to surprise him so. Currently, characters only went up to level 75. If the Myriad Manifestations umbrella was upgraded to level 80, then it would be impossible to equip. Thus, it needed the effect of lowering the level requirement. This effect was rather common on usual equipment, but the Pro Circle had probably never looked into creating such an effect. This was because this was an effect used while still leveling up. For characters that were at max level, it was useless. However, Guan Rongfei said that he could create level 80 equipment when the level limit was still 75. Then that effect would naturally be key. You're crazy, how is that possible? Yi Shu was simply surprised, but he had no doubt that it was possible because he believed in Guan Rongfei's ability. If the other brought it up, then there was a possibility. It's impossible for other equipment, but not for the Myriad Manifestations umbrella, Guan Rongfei said. Why? This is something I've researched for a long time, but I haven't managed to find a way to realize it on any piece of equipment. I've realized that what was preventing any breakthrough was the fact that there were too few materials used to make the equipment, so it doesn't have the ability to create such a powerful effect. However, the Myriad Manifestations umbrella, this extremely complex piece of equipment, can't be compared to normal equipment. After careful study of the materials, I believe that the Myriad Manifestations umbrella can break through to level 80. However, before that, I have to test out creating the effect of lowering the level requirement by 5 with level 75 materials. Alright, go ahead. Yi Shu handed over Lord Grimm's account card. Guan Rongfei logged in and went directly for the equipment editor. He was much more familiar with the operation of the equipment editor than Yi Shu. I'm going to start now. After that last sentence, Guan Rongfei focused on operating the editor. Chapter 1128. Former teammate. Yi Shu and Guan Rongfei shut themselves in the R&D room. Although no one else went to watch, they were all very curious as to what the result would be. So, even though Ghost Parade had ended, everyone lingered in the training room. After tossing around some random guesses without much success, everyone quickly started talking about what had happened today. Seeing him stirring up all that ruckus, I thought he wanted to try and get Feng Rui over here. But in the end, it turned out he was after Boundless Sea, Chen Guo said, with a bit of resentment at Yi Shu's sneakiness. Boundless Sea? The Qi Master, that caught Wei Chen's attention, and he glanced over at Su Mucheng. After hearing Chen Guo speak, Su Mucheng also lifted her head, and it looked like there was something on her mind. Yeah. He said that the current strong teams wouldn't be interested in Boundless Sea, so it'd be easier for us to compete, Chen Guo said. Is that the only reason? Wei Chen smiled. Is it not? Chen Guo was puzzled. Weren't you an Excellent Era fan in the past? Wei Chen asked. Huh? Chen Guo was thrown off by this seemingly unrelated question. A fan of Yi Chu? Wei Chen continued to ask. Chen Guo's reply was vague. Now that she was familiar with Yi Shu, if she admitted this, wouldn't that boost his ego? Chen Guo didn't want to make him even more arrogant. But she had no way of denying the reality of her past. Then when Excellent Era won 3 championships in a row, don't you know who the partner standing by Yishu's side was? Huh? Chen Guo had to think. In reality, by the time she had become a fan of Excellent Era, their dynasty had already ended. And the first player she had liked wasn't Yishu, but Su Mucheng. Her support for Yishu and Excellent Era didn't come until after she had become a fan of Su Mucheng. Of course, as a fan of Excellent Era, she couldn't completely forget about Excellent Era's golden age of 3 championships. With Wei Chen's reminder, she suddenly remembered. When Excellent Era won 3 championships in a row, Team Excellent Era did not yet have Su Mucheng. They didn't have Dancing Rain, nor did they have a launcher. However, One Autumn Leaf didn't fight alone. In that era, standing by his side were his reliable teammates, and the one that was mentioned the most was a player named Wu Shifeng. And this player's class was Qi Master, Account Qi Breaker. All of this suddenly surfaced in Chen Guo's mind. One Autumn Leaf, Qi Breaker, the partnership that had dominated the alliance for 3 years. Launcher. That only came after. The first character who had stood beside the battle god was a Qi Master. Wu Shifeng retired after Excellent Era's 3 championships. Chen Guo, who had only become a fan afterwards, had only heard mention of his name. But even just hearing about this was enough to get one fired up. Yishu intended to get a Qi Master, and Chen Guo now felt the significance behind that. Is Wu Shifeng returning? Chen Guo was excited. The partnership that had swept the alliance for 3 years, if it could be recreated, then how thrilling would that be? But Chen Guo had forgotten, the character that Yishu now controlled was no longer the battle mage One Autumn Leaf. Him? Probably not. As a first-generation player, Wei Chen of course knew Wu Shifeng personally. Why not? Asked Chen Guo. Not long after retiring, he went abroad. Never heard any news about him again, said Wei Chen. Maybe Yishu contacted him, Chen Guo said. Even if he did, you shouldn't be too excited. That guy's even older than me. Otherwise why else would he retire? Although he was very lucky, he had Yishu beside him. His slipping condition was completely hidden by Yishu's continual improvement. Damn, if I'd been in Excellent Era then, maybe I also could have stumbled upon 3 championships. There was a trace of envy and indignance in Wei Chen's words. Chen Guo processed this information. She didn't say anything at first, but instead searched up Wu Shifeng's name on the internet. Chen Guo realized that she knew very little about this former Excellent Era player. When speaking of Excellent Era's championship days, people generally only talked about Yishu and his One Autumn Leaf, and Chen Guo was like everyone else, only paying attention to the battle god. There wasn't too much information online about Wu Shifeng. After all, the alliance was still being established during that period and hadn't reached the level of influence it had now. Back then, the Glory Pro scene was very small. However, the development of the Glory Alliance was incredibly rapid, which was evident from the increasing amount of news from each season as the years progressed. Season 3, another championship, establishing a dynasty. There was much discussion about these topics. But as for topics about Wu Shifeng, Chen Guo didn't see the respect given to a hero. More people discussed his luck, the luck of becoming Yishu's helper. If I'd been in Excellent Era, maybe I also could have stumbled upon 3 championships. Chen Guo discovered that Wei Chen's statement just now was a popular sentiment back then. Even an ordinary player dared say this. This was a great compliment to Yishu's strength, but it was disrespectful toward Wu Shifeng and the other members of Excellent Era. Sadly, Chen Guo searched for quite a while, but couldn't find an honest and reliable analysis. It wasn't like that. At this moment, Su Mucheng's voice came from right next to her. Chen Guo turned her head, and saw that Su Mucheng was also looking at the archived news on the screen. Wu Shifeng was an outstanding player, Su Mucheng said. Without him, Excellent Era wouldn't have won its 3 championships. Yishu said this, Chen Guo asked. Su Mucheng nodded. Then would he come back? Chen Guo asked, pointing at Wu Shifeng's name on her screen. Don't know, Su Mucheng shook her head. No one knew. And the one who had the most direct interactions with Wu Shifeng, aside from Yishu, was of course Wei Chen. That guy. After being asked, Wei Chen began to search through his memories. He was truly a guy who relied on his brain and not his hands to fight matches. That might be the reason why he maintained his condition better than I did, even though he was clearly older than me. Wei Chen gave his serious opinion, which showed that his "if I'd been in Excellent Era" statement was just his automatic trash talk. He didn't disregard Wu Shifeng's personal contributions to Excellent Era's success. He used his brain, experience, awareness, accurate judgment, precise technique, Wei Chen said. Then why did he retire? Chen Guo asked. Please, his condition was only a little better than mine. His age was hanging right there. To be able to play those 3 years was already his limit, Wei Chen said. After he said that, Wei Chen crouched in front of the computer. There should still be some old match videos of him online. There really weren't many recordings from matches that had occurred years and years ago. But Excellent Era was at the peak back then, so their matches were more likely to be recorded and thus comparably easier to find now. Wei Chen soon found one, and Chen Guo realized that it was actually a video she had watched before. But just looking at the title of the video, it was obvious that this video wasn't saved to remember Wu Shifeng. Yi Chu, One Autumn Leaf. It seemed as though the Excellent Era of that time period had left behind only these two names. And Chen Guo had been the same, only paying attention to the battle gods playing and completely forgetting about the battle gods' teammates. Was there some standout performance in this match? Chen Guo had no recollection. The video quickly began playing. Although the quality wasn't very good, Chen Guo still immediately found One Autumn Leaf. But what about Wu Shifeng's Chi Breaker? Seems like he's not in view right now, Wei Chen said, regretful. Soon, the two teams in the video began launching attacks. Excellent Era's opponent in this match was a team formerly at the summit, Royal Style. Peaceful Hermit. Chen Guo quickly discovered another god-level character. The scythe in his hand flashed with the light and fire of vanquishing demons. A spirit guidance was used, and a twisting arc flew into the midst of Excellent Era's formation. Open battle. Chen Guo became entirely engrossed in the god-level face-off between One Autumn Leaf and Peaceful Hermit, until Wei Chen suddenly pointed at the screen and shouted, "He appeared. Right there." Ah, Chen Guo shook herself as though awakening from a dream, and remembered why she was watching this video in the first place. Chi Breaker finally appeared on screen. He was currently moving around constantly, his body occasionally vanishing from view. Because the video was entirely focused on Yi Shu and One Autumn Leaf, the camera didn't move to follow anyone else. How sneaky. This was Wei Chen's appraisal of Chi Breaker's changing position. Did he also play dirty? Asked Chen Guo. Not exactly, said Wei Chen. His playstyle was whatever suited the situation best. The screen still showed the fight between One Autumn Leaf and Peaceful Hermit. But suddenly, Peaceful Hermit flew horizontally, out of view. The camera immediately swiveled to follow, and so Chen Guo saw that Chi Breaker had used a cloud-grasping fist to abruptly pull Peaceful Hermit away from the middle of his fierce battle with One Autumn Leaf. Fuck, what a pig of a teammate, a scrolling comment *** suddenly appeared on screen. He interrupted One Autumn Leaf's attack rhythm, how overbearing. His brain must be underwater. Before the fourth comment could appear, Wei Chen turned off the scrolling comments. A bunch of idiots, he scoffed. Just now, if Chi Breaker hadn't pulled Peaceful Hermit away, One Autumn Leaf would have been in trouble. Did you see it? Chen Guo felt her face redden, because she hadn't seen anything at all. In that moment, her thought process reflected the sentiments of the scrolling comments. She also thought that Chi Breaker's sudden cloud-grasping fist had interrupted Yi Shu's rhythm. If you wanted to coordinate, then just directly attack, why pull Peaceful Hermit out of One Autumn Leaf's attack range? So you see, he always appeared when he was most needed. Truly a reliable helper, Wei Chen continued to give his analysis. To get Boundless Sea, I think. Wu Shifeng wouldn't come back, Yi Shu's probably thinking of finding another helper, said Wei Chen. Oh, then who? Chen Guo asked. Yi Shu must have given some thought as to who to ask. As she was thinking, she suddenly heard two loud shouts from the R&D room. Shit. Fuck. Neither Yi Shu nor Guan Rongfei were the type to lose control easily. What happened? Everyone immediately crowded around to look. In the R&D room, Yi Shu and Guan Rongfei were staring at the computer screen, wordless. On the screen, Lord Grimm's myriad manifestation umbrella was flashing through its various forms, but the lowest line on its list of stats didn't change. Equipment required level -4. Chapter 1129. Many monks but not much gruel. Glory equipment was separated every 5 levels. Characters weren't though, so lowering the equipment required level didn't necessarily have to be by 5. From the effect bonuses on current equipment, lowering the equipment required level between 1 to 5 levels was possible. But Guan Rongfei was upgrading the Myriad Manifestations umbrella. Apart from lowering the equipment required level by 5, any other effect was useless. It meant that this upgrade was a failure. What exactly went wrong? Guan Rongfei muttered to himself. He had checked all of the Myriad Manifestation umbrella's forms. Every single form had this effect, and all of them lowered the equipment required level by 4. At this moment, Chen Guo and the others had gathered here, asking what had happened. Yi Shu explained. No one cared about the experiment's failure. All of them were shocked. Level 75 was the level cap, but Guan Rongfei had wanted to produce a level 80 equipment. What sort of imagination did this guy have? Look at my death's hand. This was the first thing Wei Chen said after recovering from his shock. No. Apart from the Myriad Manifestations umbrella, it isn't possible. Guan Rongfei shook his head. He didn't seem to care about the discussion that everyone else was having. He had already buried his head back into research again. Yi Shu and everyone else quietly left the room. After regaining their composure, they began expressing their regret towards this failed experiment. The Myriad Manifestations umbrella isn't ruined, is it? Chen Guo asked. No, Yi Shu said. It could be considered as a fortune among misfortune. The experiment failed, but the Myriad Manifestation umbrella's intrinsic functions hadn't been ruined. There was just an extra useless effect. How reckless. Why'd you directly start with the Myriad Manifestations umbrella? Experiment with other equipment first before trying to do something like lower the required level, Chen Guo said. That step had been completed long ago. The current focus is to get all of the Myriad Manifestation umbrella's forms to have this stat. This step has been completed too actually. It's just that a problem occurred with the stat effect itself, Yi Shu said. Then it'll definitely be possible at level 80, Chen Guo said. Before we can ascertain that we can get this stat bonus, it's not convenient to test. If not, if we get it to level 80 but there was only a reduction of 4 levels, how am I supposed to use it? Yi Shu said. The experiment had failed. When Yi Shu and Guan Rongfei saw that the equipment required level had only been lowered by 5, they also felt grieved and frustrated. But the two quickly regained their calm. After all, there were many positives gained from this failure. They couldn't help with this matter, so they quickly shifted the topic to the Qi Master. Wu Shifeng? We haven't stayed in touch after he retired. I don't know, Yi Shu dispelled Chen Guo's guess. Sure enough, he had no intentions of looking for this old general to return. Then after we get Boundless Sea, who are we going to find to use it? Chen Guo asked. We have to choose very carefully. Do you guys have any suggestions? Yi Shu asked. Chen Guo coughed blood. Don't you already have an idea? Did I say that? Yi Shu was puzzled. Quote. Don't make things up, Yi Shu said to Chen Guo. Let's analyze the current Qi masters in the pro scene, Yi Shu said. Chen Guo understood. This transfer would be a transfer starting from scratch, from character to player. We have to get Boundless Sea first though, Yi Shu said. What if we get Boundless Sea but can't find anyone? Chen Guo couldn't help but ask. That shouldn't happen, Yi Shu said. An all-star character should be very attractive to pro players. Seeing the current circumstances in the pro scene, I don't think it will be too difficult to snatch an outstanding Qi Master player. What do you mean by circumstances? Chen Guo didn't understand. Many monks but not much gruel, Yi Shu said. Chen Guo stared blankly. She didn't continue asking about it. She was also trying to consciously train herself to be a better boss. Many monks but not much gruel. Chen Guo pondered over this phrase. Soon, she started to understand what Yi Shu meant. Among last season's top 8 teams, there were only 2 Qi Masters. What's more, Team Wind Howl's Guo Yang wasn't in an important position on the team either. In the playoffs, the only active Qi Master was Team Blue Rain's Song Xiao. Getting into the playoffs and fighting for the championship title was the dream of every pro player. But for Qi Masters, the current circumstances weren't good for them. Including the retiring all-star, Zhao Yang, the Qi Masters were on weak teams without any hopes for the playoffs. And in the powerhouses, none of them had any open positions for Qi Masters. Zhao Yang had been fighting with Seaside for 7 years. Admittedly, a part of that was because of his stubbornness, but a part of that was also because he didn't have many good choices. This was the current situation for all Chi Masters. Even if they were outstanding players, they were being held back by weak teams. They may want to join a top team, but the top teams didn't have Chi Masters, so there was no opening for them. Most pro players might not look too highly upon a new team like Team Happy, who lacked resources. However, Chi Masters didn't have any better choices. And perhaps Happy might truly have a bright future. Thinking of all of this, Chen Guo felt like she had improved greatly. She at least understood that transfers weren't like buying vegetables at the supermarket. It was a lot more complex than that. 3 days later, while everyone was still focused on Fang Rui, the all-star character Boundless Sea was bought by Team Happy for 5.5 million. Everyone was shocked. They weren't surprised that Happy could take out this sum of money. After all, winning the Challenger League earned them a good amount of money. A price of 5.5 million was relatively cheap for an all-star character, but when considering the current circumstances for Chi Masters as well as Team Seaside's current situation, it was a reasonable price. After Zhao Yang retired, news related to Team Seaside quickly came out. Fans would always be proud because of their all-star player or character in their team, but they would never think that sometimes their all-stars would be the burden of their team. Team Seaside was in this situation. They were a small team. Whether it was a contract for an all-star player or creating an all-star character, it was a huge investment for them. And ever since their start in Season 3, they had always been doing their utmost to keep up this investment. They had once been proud because of their all-star player and character, but they gradually realized that as they maintained this pride, the growth of the team became more and more unbalanced. A single skilled player and character wasn't enough to help them win more. When they tried improving their other players and characters, they discovered that because of Zhao Yang and Boundless Sea, they no longer had the resources to invest in anything else. In a nutshell, Team Seaside was a small team with a big team's mindset. They had insisted on this unsuitable management style for 7 years. They had hesitated and paced back and forth. It wasn't until this summer, when a new manager took office in Team Seaside, was a decision finally made. Seaside had decided to free themselves of this burden and take the path that a small team should be taking. Zhao Yang had been let go, so he decisively chose to retire. Boundless Sea had been sold. Seaside had invested too much into this character, and they didn't plan on continuing. If they weren't going to continue investing into Boundless Sea, there wasn't much point in keeping it. It would be better to sell it to strengthen the rest of the team. Zhao Yang's retirement, Boundless Sea's sale. Behind those were changes to Team Seaside's management. Yi Shu didn't know about all of this, but he had at least gotten a general sense of Seaside's position from Zhao Yang's retirement. As a result, he immediately acted and happily took in Boundless Sea. Seaside obviously wanted to sell Boundless Sea for the highest price possible. However, the top teams in the alliance weren't interested in a Chi Master, and the small teams were uncertain. The unwavering Happy suddenly stood above the crowd. After some negotiation, an agreement was quickly reached. Boundless Sea transferred to Happy. As soon as Happy acted, they grabbed an all-star character. For fans, it was very exciting news. But soon afterwards, doubts about Happy's management style sprouted up, questioning whether Happy would become the next Seaside. 2 all-stars and a bunch of characters to upgrade. Happy was a grassroots team. Their burden had been very heavy to begin with. Even so, in this situation, Happy actually bought an all-star character. Did they have the resources to maintain such a top-tier character? Would Team Happy become like Team Seaside? Would they become a grassroots team that walked the path of a powerhouse until their demise? However, the day after Boundless Sea joined Happy, Happy announced that Boundless Sea's silver weapon, Mirror Moon, had been upgraded to level 75. Everyone was once again shocked. Team Seaside hadn't been able to do it after half a season, yet Happy had done it in just a single day. The people doubting Happy clearly hadn't done a thorough investigation. For example, the club guild leaders definitely wouldn't have given such naive evaluations because no one knew better than them that even though Happy's resources as a whole were certainly lacking, in terms of high-end resources like materials, Happy was quite rich. Ever since the level 75 update, Happy had obtained the most wild bosses among the guilds. Happy's situation was completely different from Seaside's. It could even be said that taking this path to the peak was the most suitable for them. Boundless Sea allowed Happy to avoid the initial stages of character creation, which was exactly where their deficiencies lay. On the other hand, directly upgrading a good character to the top was exactly where their resources lay. However, upgrading a level 70 silver weapon to level 75 in a single day wasn't just an issue of ample resources. It seemed like Team Happy had someone very capable at creating silver equipment. Was it Yishu? Just when everyone made this guess, another report came out. Excellent Era's R&D god had been taken in by Happy after Excellent Era disbanded. Everything was clear now. Excellent Era's R&D team was obviously very proficient with Chi Master equipment. Chi Masters had been a part of their main roster. At Happy, Boundless Sea seemed to be blessed by the heavens. The only thing the character lacked was an outstanding player. Suddenly, the entire glory scene started helping Happy look for a Chi Master. Chapter 1130. Candidates. Did he decline? Su Mucheng asked, after seeing Yishu sigh and close his QQ chat window. Yeah, Yishu nodded his head. His tone was filled with regret. Among the current Chi Master pros, the first person Yishu looked for was Guo Yang, who was originally part of Excellent Era. After Excellent Era had been relegated from the Alliance, Guo Yang had joined Team Wind Howl. There was no need to question the skill of a player that had been part of Excellent Era's main roster. Yishu and Su Mucheng used to be his teammates. They already had good synergy with each other, so Guo Yang would have a much easier time assimilating into Happy compared to any other candidate. As a result, even though Chen Guo wasn't too pleased with it, she had to admit that in theory, Guo Yang was their best choice. Unfortunately, Guo Yang very resolutely declined Yishu's invitation. Compared to Happy, he looked more favorably upon Wind Howl's future. Although he wasn't in an important position at Wind Howl right now, Fang Rui's departure had been confirmed. When his old Excellent Era teammate Lu Hao joined the team, Guo Yang felt like the day he had been waiting for had finally come. Happy. No thanks, Guo Yang wasn't interested in Yishu's invitation. Even though Boundless Sea was certainly very enticing, Guo Yang felt like that alone wasn't enough to convince him. He had once been part of a powerhouse. The character that he had used previously, Chi Breaker, had been top tier too, so his standards and ambitions were high. He didn't just want a good character. He wanted a team of powerful teammates and a team of powerful characters. Wind Howl suited him. As for Happy, he didn't feel like he needed to run away to a new team. So what if you had Boundless Sea? I'm not some small fry who hasn't seen the world. Why not try Song Shao? Guo Yang said to Yishu. Yishu could only close his chat window after seeing this recommendation. He could obviously tell that Guo Yang was being sarcastic. Song Shao's position in Team Blue Rain was solid. He had a powerful character and his future at Team Blue Rain was bright. There was no reason for him to try out Team Happy. As a result, Yishu hadn't put Song Shao as a candidate. But with this recommendation, it was clear that Guo Yang felt like his situation was the same as Song Shao's. To him, Happy was being delusional asking him to join. Thus, there was nothing more to say. Wind Howl had made it to last season's semifinals. Their momentum was going strong. Transferring from this type of team to a new team didn't make any sense. Yishu had thought that he had a chance because Guo Yang didn't have too important of a position in Wind Howl, but Guo Yang seemed to be optimistic about his future at Wind Howl, so there was no point wasting any more time with him. Zhao Yang had retired. Song Shao wasn't an option. Guo Yang had confidently declined. There were only 3 more Chi Masters in the Alliance: Team Heavenly Swords Ning Yuan, Team Parades Zhao Bin, Team Radiance Sun Haowen. These 3 guilds had superb relationships with Happy in the game. However, the team was an entirely different matter. Team Heavenly Swords was an exception. Lu Guaning was very kind to them. If they really asked Heavenly Swords for a trade, it wouldn't be too difficult, relatively speaking. But the problem was that Team Heavenly Swords was a team made up of friends. Lu Guaning's group of friends firmly occupied their spots on the main roster. Even if Zhou Zikai, Huang Shaoshan, Wang Jiaxi, etc. came to Team Heavenly Swords, the only spot for them would be as the 6th player. As for Ning Yuan, Yishu had no idea where Lu Guaning found him. He had most likely been invited to meet the minimum requirements to form a team. An entire season had passed, and he had never appeared on stage. Unless Lu Guaning's friend group had all their hands broken, he would probably never go on stage. If Happy actually asked, Yi Shu reckoned that Lu Guaning would probably just gift him to them. Lu Guaning didn't care. After all, the chances of all 5 friends breaking their hands were very low. How could Happy dare to use this type of player though? This person was a substitute with no future at Team Heavenly Swords, yet this person was still calm and composed. It looked like he knew very well that he was just there as a stopgap. He didn't have any excessive thoughts. Just from this middling ambition alone, no one would want to place their team's hopes on him. Team Parade's Zhao Bin and Team Radiant's Sun Haowen were from bottom tier to middle tier teams. It was hard not to overlook them. These two didn't have anything that would make people's eyes light up. They were still better choices than Ning Yuan though. However, if Happy wanted to be the champions, getting a player better than Ning Yuan was far from enough. Chen Guo looked at Yi Shu. She didn't know what other plans he had. Going from their theory of many monks but not much gruel, the outstanding Chi Master players were probably buried by others. But from the looks of it, they were buried so deeply that there weren't any suitable candidates in the pro scene. Maybe the outstanding Chi Masters were buried in the game because no team needed them? Or there was an outstanding seedling at some club's training camp? Like Excellent Era? Yi Shu should be very familiar with Excellent Era's training camp. Excellent Era had a Chi Master as part of the main roster, so if an outstanding Chi Master seedling was found, it was very likely for Excellent Era to keep him or her. Excellent Era may have disbanded, but it wasn't like these outstanding seedlings disappeared. This should be another possible solution. Chen Guo trusted that Yi Shu hadn't just started coming up with plans after buying Boundless Sea. When he decided to get Boundless Sea, he probably had ideas in mind. Guo Yang was their first choice. He had declined unfortunately, but it wasn't likely that Yi Shu put all his eggs in one basket. What next? Chen Guo didn't ask. She quietly walked to Yi Shu's side. Chen Guo was able to maintain her composure better than in the past. She wouldn't panic before she got a clear understanding of the situation. Yi Shu was scrolling through his QQ friends list, but after scrolling for a while, Chen Guo was finally starting to get nervous. No way. We've reached a dead end? There are no more choices? Just when she was worrying, she saw Yi Shu turn his head to the side and ask Su Mucheng, "Do you have Song Xiao as a friend?" Song Xiao? Isn't he pretty unlikely? Su Mucheng said. Chen Guo was dumbstruck. Hadn't they already crossed out Song Xiao as a candidate? Did Yi Shu have a way? Even though Su Mucheng was puzzled, she still told Yi Shu, "I don't have him, but he's in the chat group." Oh, right, Yi Shu mumbled. He found Team Blue Rain's receding tides in the pro player chat group and messaged him, but he didn't get any response back. Then, Chen Guo saw as Yi Shu scrolled through his friends list and found Troubling Rain. Huang Shaoshan, Song Xiao's teammate in Team Blue Rain. Chen Guo was feeling dizzy. Then, she saw Yi Shu type, "Is Song Xiao there? Have him check his QQ." Song Xiao? Why are you looking for him? If you're looking for him, why are you asking me? F***CK. No way. What are you doing? What do you want? Are you trying to get Song Xiao to join? Are you drunk? Why would Song Xiao be interested? You should ask Guo Yang. You guys know each other. He's at Wind Howl, and he's not doing too well either. Huang Shaoshan replied promptly. Chatting with him was very fast-paced. As for whether asking him would save time, only a wise man knew. For example, take his recommendation. Let alone Yi Shu already trying. In reality, the pro circle had already discussed it and felt like Guo Yang was very suitable for Happy. Let's cut the nonsense. Is he there? Yi Shu didn't act like someone asking for a favor. TCH, it looks like you're dead set on him. Hold on, Huang Shaoshan typed. Not long afterwards, he sent Yi Shu an invite. He had formed a group and added Song Xiao into it. However, he was also there, watching on the side. Yi Shu cut to the chase and happily stated, "What do you think, Song Xiao? Are you interested in coming over and becoming a champion with us?" Ha 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 ha, champion. This probably isn't even your biggest selling point, right? Song Xiao, keep listening, Huang Shaoshan said. Happy has a great environment. It's very quiet, Yi Shu said. F***CK off FCK off FCK off, Huang Shaoshan spoke first. Haha, I was almost tempted. This time, Song Xiao replied too. Of course, I was almost tempted meant he hadn't been tempted. It was another rejection. His words still stabbed at Huang Xiaoshan's heart though. Huang Xiaoshan was quiet at the moment. Yi Shu was wondering whether those two were fighting right now. Of course, Yi Shu hadn't looked for Song Xiao for fun. He had wanted to give it a try. The discussion in the chat group wasn't a very serious one. In reality, in his private chat window with Song Xiao, he was still trying to persuade him. Think of Happy's chances of winning the championships. Maybe you'll feel interested afterwards, Yi Shu said. In terms of pure resources, Happy indeed couldn't compete with Blue Rain. But what they did have was the possibility of shocking the world. Maybe he was the type who sought novelties and was willing to give it a try? Haha, I'm kinda looking forward to it, but I still think Team Blue Rain has better chances. Reality proved that Song Xiao was rather practical and wise. He didn't seek novelties. You're not interested in creating history? Yi Shu said. History? Just think, a new team winning the championships. Wouldn't that be exciting? Yi Shu said. I think I'll pass. Young people have no drive these days. They're so depressing, Yi Shu said. I'm feeling quite good where I'm at, really, Song Xiao said. Think about it carefully. If you're interested, contact me anytime, Yi Shu said. Honestly, there's a tiny part of me that's tempted, but I'm still more afraid that I'll regret it. Song Xiao was a nice person. He didn't hide his real thoughts, but because he made it clear, he didn't drag on his refusal. He was a person who was confident in his decisions. What a pity, Yi Shu expressed his regret, but he didn't pursue it any further. Another refusal, Yi Shu shook his head and sighed. That shouldn't be surprising though, no, Chen Guo said. She had to admit that when Yi Shu talked about the possibility of creating history, she thought it might have been possible. Words like that were truly moving. Yeah, Yi Shu said. His mindset had been that he might as well try. What now? Chen Guo finally asked. Yi Shu replied. He clicked on the chat group that he hadn't closed yet and clicked on someone. Dirty Fang, have you ever thought about changing classes? What do you think about Chi Masters? There's one waiting just for you, Yi Shu typed into the new chat window.